Earth Starch, who's going to talk to us about a very cool piece of kit that I have also had the pleasure of seeing in action, and ties in very nicely to the presentation that we had prior about circular economies and looking at keeping resources where they should be. Hand over to you.
Thank you very much.
Hang on a sec, I'll just...
Presentation from Eddie, wasn't it?
I should set a high bar.
And so I'm here to talk about the organic path.
Yeah.
The organic side is circular economy. So we all know that there's three major solutions around at the moment, and don't really need a lot of introduction. But I want to introduce you to another option for organics, and what we think will create a better circular economy. Six years ago, Judy, my partner, and I were looking at an end-of-life solution to compostable bags that we were bringing in. There were no other technologies that could actually handle them or would have. And while we were looking, we found this really interesting technology that was just starting to find its feet. And with them, we decided that we'd have a look at seeing what we could do with it. And what we ended up with is something that's really quite interesting, and it's been very challenging over the last 5 years, but let's hurry up to 2023. What our system can do is turn organics into soil inside of 4 hours. And we've proved it time and time again. So we've designed a technology that enables us to turn virtually any organic material into soil. Again, that's sub 4 hours. I've got to keep hitting that one home because it's quite unbelievable. The whole point of our system is to be able to enable industry to deal with their own waste, to help promote circular economy. Obviously the main point is going to be landfill reduction, getting that organic waste out of landfill. Now, as you can see there, our process is fully modular and totally scalable. Big question I get asked all the time: how much waste can you handle? So we can look at a centralised system. Could I just switch? Oh, you've got the. I can do it. Run away. We could go with one large centralised system, just like everybody else, and then you just truck everything around the roads and kill your roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
As an example, this is a design for a 35,000 tonne system. You can do 20. And that's just to prove that scale is available in this technology. Next one, please. Keep up, look. No, we've just stuffed it. How a true partnership works. So this just shows you some large scale from the design that we just showed you, so that it exists. All right, this is live in Taiwan, just being built. I think it's the third system that they've put in. Thank you. So we don't need to dwell on that. So as I said, we've designed our systems to be modular and scalable. You've seen the big stuff, 100,000 tonne a year, it's easy, piece of cake. But it doesn't help our roading system, and it doesn't help our communities, because it just clears it out of the way. Again, please. Thank you. So why not keep the resource and use it in our backyard?
Yeah.
So let's have a look at what that model might look like. Thank you. So let's look at our region and say, let's put a whole lot of small units within high density areas where we can take the organic material, process it into soil and send it back out into the community to replant our gardens and everything else. And again, thank you, dear. We believe that through this sort of system, we can help increase resilience within the community. So one of these small units, and you can see we've sort of designed something in containers, could handle quite easily up to 5,000 tonnes a year. 5,000 tonnes. So you could have potentially one community facility, and we call these little ones community facilities because that's the focus we want to have. One of these would most likely handle all of your waste, including your big population explosion that you get in the summertime. And of course, then you can add to one of these facilities, community garden, educational centre. So right around the whole process, because of course it comes in one end as food scraps. It comes out as soil ready to be put onto the land.
Sorry, excuse me. I don't know if I've kind of missed something, but are you saying that if you do it on a small scale like this, or if you do it on a large scale, it's the same system? You're talking about conventional composting? Is that?
No, this is,
Oh,
This is
our process uses an enzyme as opposed to microbial.
oh,
So
okay.
basic composting or standard composting will take
Yes.
3 to 6 months.
Yeah, yes.
Right, so we've accelerated that process.
Okay, but if you did it at the small scale,
Yep.
or if you did do it the centralized, it's the same process?
Yes,
Okay,
just more equipment,
okay, yeah. Okay,
right?
thank you.
So
Sorry, yeah, I missed that point.
everything's bigger,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
The main challenge for us was our sister company over in Taiwan wanted to go large, and we wanted to see how small we could go to make it a viable process.
yeah, thank you, sorry.
yeah. People.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't quite got to the methodology yet, though, have we?
Why they-
No, we'll do that later, that's something I was struggling on. Yeah,
So, and of course, we can also include that into existing community initiatives that you may have.
Like that could work for an Esri
Oh, most definitely. Working very well.
extension at the Marae.
And why not? And why not?
Make our own soil. It'll save us thousands.
So this is a snapshot of our test equipment that we've got set up in Upper Hutt at the back of Brewtown. So what you see there is a auger feeder that goes into this system we call Rosie. And we've had to do an acronym for it, but the reality is it actually came from the Jetsons.
Oh,
I just like that campaign.
Robot name.
Yeah, that's it. It's it. So nothing really fancy, but yeah. So the whole idea is we have a pre-treatment container, we have a reaction container, and we have what we call a post-treatment container. Quite simple. So the three processes, the waste comes in, we sort it for contamination, we break it down into small pieces, we blend it, we feed it into Rosie, which is the key to the whole equipment. We add an enzyme to it that's targeted to the waste stream, and that is the absolute key proprietary bit. for food waste, within 2 hours, 40 minutes, soil will come out and it will feed directly into our post-treatment container. And what that does is it'll cool it and then it'll dry it so that we can bag it. And then we can put it straight into a bagging system or into a large hopper. Now, once it's cooled, it can still be put to land, right? Understand though that our process, what we do is we sterilise it. So what we've got is a great soil that's a catalyst for whatever we want to introduce to it. So we might put a bit of humate in to that and create this great, amazing biology within the soil very quickly. So all that can happen within 24 hours.
So sorry, so you're saying it heats up a lot, so does it actually destroy any humus in the raw material, does it?
So it does not impact any of the nutritional values that are within the ingredients, right?
Okay.
What it does do, it just gets rid of all the insects and seeds and bugs and pathogens that might be within the material. We can put human waste into that
You know,
and treat it. No, don't particularly want to, but it can be done. So if you had like it's another slide coming up, so I better leave there. But please, thank you. So
Bloody hell.
question, a large centralised system serve a community that's cut off after a natural disaster. I think there was some discussion around, touched on that a little bit earlier. Our system can, because it can stand alone. It could handle, if there was an emergency and if it was required, it could handle human waste if there was no other way of dealing with it. But because it's localised, it then means that your food waste, which is what attracts mice and vermin and causes disease, right?
yes,
So we can process it. If the power's cut, run it off a genset. That's what we did with our little system for 4 or 5 months. It works.
okay.
That's it. Nice and simple. Yes.
So, can you tell me how Rosie operates?
Yes.
So it's
You say you introduce an enzyme,
like a cake mixer. It's a heated mixing bowl.
heated
Basically,
at what temperature?
goes up to 84 degrees.
Yep.
Amy's just pointed out that she can run your YouTube video on here that demonstrates
One
how it
on your
goes.
website?
Yeah, go for it.
You just give me a couple of secs.
Yeah, I'll give you the cookie thing.
It's a very short clip, but yeah, geographically.
Just when you see it on the website, it actually all
Does
makes
help.
sense.
See down there, South Wairarapa,
Stop sharing them.
out at the coast.
I just asked, how have you derived the enzyme? Is it natural occurring one or?
It's 100% organic
Yeah,
and
but I mean, have you found it as in animals' digestive systems or is it?
it's taken from the actual waste stream. Right, so there's some real clever science that goes on and it's well above my pay grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here we're putting it out,
Oh, it's the trainer.
goes in, goes through a shredder,
Yeah.
comes out.
Oh, so you're mixing it in with soil?
Yeah, so no, that's actually the waste. That's as it's mixing, it's creating
Okay.
a blend.
Oh, okay.
Right now, we've done trials and that's what's come out. So at the moment,
Oh, yeah, mix it with something else.
It's quite manual, but what this allows us to do also is if we've got areas of a lot of contamination, we can actually determine where that's come from because it's batch driven and actually help educate.
Yeah.
So within using a container idea, which is not the most ideal, right? But if you haven't got a building to house it, this is the next option. You can cut a viewing window right around the containers so that people can come by and actually see it all happening. And this is the key. If folk know that their food waste is being treated,
That up at the marae easy.
then they're going to separate it.
I know.
They're going to start thinking a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
Job opportunities in this as well.
Huge.
It says, you know, so obviously it requires a level of staffing, so in terms of people.
Yeah, someone with knowledge.
Deal with our waste. Yeah.
I would like to think that it would not only do that, it will increase micro business as well.
yeah.
You know, maybe you've got some school kids,
Could do
you get
more.
some electric bikes with a trailer. We've designed some, right? That they could go out and earn a couple of quid and pick up some waste, you know?
Yeah, clean up
Gardening.
our roads.
Why not? Doing the gardening, you know, and then you've got a soil and it's a really good quality soil. It's unofficially, I've had a soil expert
Come on.
have a look at it and analyse our matured soil, the fact that the pile you just saw there, and he said it's amongst the best he's ever seen.
Could I ask how you,
Necessity is that.
how you
Yep.
control what comes into you? Because if you've got a whole lot of grass off, like the golf course that's been used with broadleaf weed killer,
Yep.
which they're not allowed to have in the organic compost that is sold certified. How would you control that? Because you know, if people grew their vegetables on that, they could still get residual from those.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we wouldn't allow it in the
Toxic.
machine. It's
Yeah, but how do you
Education.
eliminate it?
it would have to be,
Because you've got to sort it before it goes through, eh?
yeah. But also too,
That toxic stuff
So-
over there.
this
Can't tell.
as I say, it's our test system, and it's a 1,000 litre drum, right? So that means to get a decent mix, we can only put in 500 litres, right? Thereabouts. But you scale it up, and you've got a 10,000 litre unit or a 5,000 litre unit, and that'll do between 2,500 litres and 5,000 litres at a time in sub 3 hours. So you could run multiple batches, but you know where everything's come from.
Oh, it must.
So if you costed it out, what would it cost for a unit like that, for instance, to be planted in Featherston to process there? Have you done a costings on that at all?
We have, but every model is slightly different.
Or ballpark figure?
The little fella,
The little fella,
5,000, how much the
you've
cost?
got a building that it can go into or do we have to build containers?
No, forget the building, just the machine, plant machinery, yeah.
You'd start at 800,000.
See, it's a brand new marae, you pass.
Bear in mind, there's other ways of skinning the cat,
Yeah, sure.
right? And we are looking at multiple options around all of that. Man, sorry.
Good idea.
Did it process?
LTP.
Yeah. Bag is a
We had the mulch up tree.
flexible packaging is challenging with this because it's so quick, right? So the flexible packaging, it's quite ironic really when you consider that that's what we were trying to find a solution to.
Because there is a dollar amount.
It is breaking down in some little windrows that we've got that are just sitting there. We are working with some providers to see if we can actually redesign some bags that will completely disappear in the system. The paper, so packaging, I'm being with the rigid packaging, I'm a little being careful with because there's a lot of PFAS and PFOS in there. So we are being selective, but if it doesn't have that, absolutely.
Sorry, does it also need?
Put on a trailer.
Just for the food.
We used a lot of sawdust, right, to add carbon, but also to a binding agent. A lot of food waste, as you could imagine, is wet.
Gooey.
So rather than dehydrating it, we actually keep it its original weight and we just add sawdust to soak it up. And
What's the big thing?
Mm.
Have been on trade in years.
so
Some questions on process and end product. So setting up something like this, energy usage, intensity of energy usage and associated odor.
Yep.
Do you want to
Cool.
comment on that?
Absolutely. Our little machine. So, you know, when you've got equipment, they give you the energy ratings and everything else. So in theory, this small system that we've got, which is the pre and reaction system, based on the numbers of the equipment, we should be using about 300 kilowatts. We're actually, to do a full process, we're using less than 100 kilowatts, and it's about $20 to run a
For load.
process, right? So that's off the spreadsheet reality, as opposed to on the spreadsheet looking at the ratings of the equipment.
Thank you. And just a question on end product and usability. Is the texture or end product something more like ornaments or top floors?
Okay, I'll just answer your other question on odour. There is none. So our pre-treatment's in a 40-foot container and Rosie sits in a 20. Since we've been operating it, I've put in no odour control systems whatsoever because I wanted to see how bad it got. And we've really had none at this stage, and I've put some pretty nasty stuff through this. Part of the process with the enzyme and everything, the stage one is to actually kill or eliminate the odours, right? So sorry, your last question, that was about the soil, wasn't it?
Yeah, end product.
Yeah.
Okay. So like composting, what you put in, you get out, right? We're not creating a recipe at the front end, we're creating the recipe at the back end. So at the moment, we're treating the material, end of life organics, we actually prefer to call it, as opposed to waste, because it's a resource for us. So we're treating whatever comes in so that it's stable. Then we would add other bits to create a potting mix. At the moment, it comes out really fine. So we're actually having to add bark fine in to help oxygenate the soil. We've put abattoir waste, so what they call sludge, and that took about 3 hours, 40 minutes, and it came out without odour. So we've filed the wool straight from the abattoir, and literally treated that as well.
Well, you've said 800K is the sort of start point for this, right? Then that's the kit.
Well,
And then the enzyme is a frequent purchase.
I'll recant that, and I'll say that for the reactor, you're looking at 300,000 to 400,000 plus, depending on size, right? Then, if you want post-treatment, that's added on. The pre-treatment could be added on, though, to increase efficiencies. We're designing a truck that will actually do the pre-treatment. So the truck will go and collect, come back and just dump it straight into Rosie.
And then the enzyme is
That's an ongoing.
it's an ongoing.
Yeah. But the system, based on the trials that we're running at the moment, it's a viable system, right? So it'll stand on its feet.
So have you designed this to on-sell to councils, communities, etc., or have you designed this to set up so that you operate it basically, or you have hold the ownership of the equipment and charge a service to communities? How have you set it up?
Great question. And we're actually quite flexible on that. So one of the, firstly, just harking back to something that Debbie said earlier about equipment and being serviceable as opposed to throwaway. These machines we have designed so that if something goes wrong, we can replace a part. right? So it's got a long-term lifespan.
The parts made in New Zealand.
They can be. We're working on that. We are working on that. And there will be options for fully New Zealand made.
If life.
So
Carbon
that's,
footprint.
what I mean?
It already has a big carbon footprint.
It does, but then it soaks it up pretty quick too. So part of our initial plan was, let's see what industry wants, needs with this equipment. So we've gone to the likes of Fonterra and large dairy companies that have a lot of waste and abattoirs. There's a big appetite there. There's also a large appetite coming with councils as we're starting to come out of COVID and, you know, getting in front of everybody. So
could I just ask, following from that, so have you got a patent on this or anything? On which part have you got a patent on?
the enzyme is the
enzymes that
Yeah,
are patent on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
The Rosie we have as well, which is pending, and that's only because there's some tweaks in there. So it's not just a mixing bowl, right? It's important to us to be able to provide reporting, right? So where it's come from, where it's gone to, what process was used, how much waste has been diverted from landfill, which we find that's the key, isn't it? How much?
But going beyond the, because there seems to be a stopping point at the point where the soil is produced, right? And then obviously it doesn't go any further than that, and we have to figure out what to do with the soil after, which is fine, of course. Has there been any discussions with the likes of federated farmers and that kind of thing? Because, you know, with stock rotation or land use and that kind of thing, adding nutrients back into your soils so they become more usable for the longer term. Has there been any discussions about how the output of this could be applied to the rural community to assist farmers and add those nutrients in through this process as well?
So you're familiar with DAF from the dairy industry. So that's the dissolved air flotation. So with every food, large manufacturing system like butter and cheese, that sort of thing, there's those proteins that don't get into the system, right? So they go out into these ponds, and then they have this wand that goes around and just sweeps all the yucky stuff off. Well, that's what DAF is, right? So it's got the consistency of milkshake and it stinks. So we've processed that for a large dairy company to see if we can get it fine enough to go through a spreader for the farms, because of course with DAF, it's got that, you know, milk bottle in the sun for a week sort of smell, right? So you imagine it's very, the EOD is very high. So when it gets into the waterways, it sucks up all the oxygen. So if they apply it straight to land, then it just slides off basically. So if they can use our system, it spreads onto the pasture and they get that high nutrient value, and they can actually put stock back onto the land a lot quicker. So yes, we are, it's early stages, but there's a lot of excited noise around what we're doing. So
yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. I'm just wondering, I mean, have you done sort of an average analysis on your NPK or anything like that to see? So how far does that come out as?
Standard food waste, the nitrogen came in at 3.5%, which could be adjusted, right? So we can just add something to adjust that. So what we've been experimenting with is over, say, an 8-week window, what the average looks like in food waste. And it actually does sort of seem to plateau out. So from that, we've pretty much been able to come up for the Upper Hutt region what a recipe might look like. That's what this test site's for. You know, it's
Yeah.
see what we can do, and then come up with an end product that's going to work. So we could put gypboard into Rosie and use the gypsum, right, to add value. And of course, the heat in the process actually kills all the dissolves the cardboard that it's on.
So anybody else have any, what's your hand up over there?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Russell's gone.
You're welcome to come and have a look.
Just in terms of implementation. Study and are they use the product for the parks communities or do you have much knowledge of that?
So at the moment, I haven't let them. Yes, they will, but I wanted to test everything first. And what we, one of the things we've found is that the process, our end product at the moment is too fine. It's like sand. So water is just being held in there. So we're introducing some, as I say, some bark fine to try and oxygenate it. Once we get that tested, then absolutely. So the properties are there. We just need to, I just want a decent product at the end of it. So to come back to you, sir, on where we see the business model as well. One of the options is looking at franchising them. So you have lots of small, but they all interact together and work together, right? So we are also looking at finance options where it's a lease owner as opposed to, purchasing. And there's also joint venture options as well. So we're not necessarily wanting to operate every site, but we would very much like to be involved and help organisations to do that.
Is this, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yep.
How many similar types of models, such as a Rosie of the world, there are? Because I know that a lot of our Earthcare environmental people, our rubbish people, for instance, they look at organic collections, foodstuffs and food waste, and I don't believe that's going to landfill. So I'm just wondering what they're doing to process it as against your model. And you would have done your research, I'd imagine, to see whether there's a gap in the market.
With Rosie, because we part hold the intellectual property, I know that there's nothing outside of Taiwan and New Zealand at the moment. There are rapid compost options out there which work, but they have limited capability and no scalability unless you just put another one beside it and keep feeding it. One thing with composting is, you may or may not know, you could lose up to 50% of your input weight, which goes out in greenhouse gas. Our system consistently has shown a loss of between 5 and 16% of input weight. And that's quite significant when you are looking at an end product that you want to use or sell. So all of a sudden you've got 85% or 45% more saleable product and high quality, right? So we can basically dial up a recipe for you if you wanted potting mix or if you wanted something that's high in nitrogen, and tailor it.
Yeah. So at the moment, though, you've got a problem in terms of you're still experimenting to try and take away that silt or that sandy sort of.
We've achieved that now. It literally is as simple as adding bark fine to create the bulking.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just being pedantic because I don't want anything going out that could be raised in question.
That's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
We have a hard and fast recipe.
Cool. Thanks very much.
So just to kind of link back to what you're saying with the cost. So at the moment, we don't, as a council, collect organics. That goes out in our
That's correct. Yeah.
regular, and we pay for that. And the price per tonne is going up for the sending things off to landfill. under the new WMMP, and Mandy probably got a better idea of the exact time, but is it 2027? We have to have organic curbside, the curbside collection.
That would be useful, eh?
Yeah, but even I think 27 is a reduction by 30% of organics going to landfill. Yeah, so there's a time pressure for us as a council to have a solution.
Yeah.
Currently, it's a blank space.
Right.
And I think the technology that you've got for something that you've been working on for 6 years, it's obviously a technology that needs, I guess, testing in different situations. There's room, like you say, for scalability, but also growth and, you know, angling the technology to work in different situations. So if I link back to what Debbie was presenting about, and we start thinking from a circular point of view, in our region, one of the biggest things that we have in our region is tourism. So we have a lot of people who come over here and eat in our restaurants and go to our cafes. And if we were to, just to kind of close the loop a little bit, if we were to be able to encourage businesses operating in the South Wairarapa to use suppliers who package their materials and things that would go through a unit such as this.
Fill off all our pig farms. That's where the scraps go.
Farms in the tuna.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's been murmurings that that's going to be certified to.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised there. Another regulation.
Yeah, it's,
Just put your feet in it.
but certainly the system will help educate,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, and it would become that. Now, let me also add that you wouldn't be the first to adopt the system. We're by the end of next year, it is very much looking like the total amount of waste that we'll be treating is above 40,000 tonne in different locations. All right, mostly that's industry, but they have a real pressure, as Debbie mentioned, to get into the EU. You've got to have a good story, and there is no good story for DAF or abattoir. And you know, thankfully, we seem to be able to
Sorry,
find a
no.
solution. So
Oh, much appreciated. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time and energy on this. Yeah,
I've learned a lot.
I bet you have.
Worked well for down here.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, very good, brilliant.
The Duke and everything.
We're all good. Has anybody got anything else I want to contribute, or
Well done. Thank you.
we're all feeling fine? Okay, all right.
Very good meeting.
Close it up. Okay, so close with a karakia. Unahia, kapanui. Kia wātea, kia mama, te nāko, te tinana, te wairua, e te are takata. Koira e rongo, whakairea ake ki runga. Kia tina, haumie, huie, tai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Well done.